First off, welcome to this, and I just have a little update for what seems to be happening, and if anyone can add to the update, feel free. Ramsey Clark is not here. He was supposed to take a plane, and everybody who was going to be on that plane got moved elsewhere, so something got screwed up there. But he is on a plane now, coming towards Syracuse, and we're thinking he should be here, actually here, maybe by 4:30, maybe by 4:15. You know, what do we know? And you know how airlines are these days. The other thing is that court does not start till 5, so if he's here before 5, he can be out here available to talk to people. So that's just the information that we have now. Does anyone have additional information than that about Ramsey's visit? Okay, so that sounds like where we're at. So members of the media, thank you for coming, and you can sort of figure out how you want to deal with that. But we are going to continue with our press conference because we had other people who were going to be speaking. Claire? Claire?
Our first speaker will be Ed Canan from Syracuse. He's one of the Hancock 38, the upstate organizers.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's very nice to have you all out here. I hope you'll take some time while you're here to sort of take in our tableau. I think it's expressing some very important truths, which we are trying to express through our actions last April at Hancock Air Base about the Reaper drone in our midst out at Hancock Air Base, and also which we hope to convey, during our trial here. There were 38 of us arrested last April 22nd at Hancock Air Base. We didn't commit civil disobedience. In fact, what we were trying to do was to enforce the law. We came with an indictment to bring to the base for harboring the MQ-9 Reaper drone, which the base pilots over Afghanistan. I've recently gotten back from a month in Afghanistan. I can answer a few questions later on if there's Q&A about that, but the reason we are opposed to drones is that they're illegal by our own laws. They're also illegal by international law. But even if they weren't illegal, that's not the point. The point is they are killing and terrorizing civilians in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Pakistan, in Yemen, in Somalia, and who knows what will be next. The drone phenomenon is very rapidly evolving. This is a very rapidly evolving technology. Already, over 40 nations have drones and are developing a drone program. Think back to atomic energy in the 1940s and how that has proliferated. Atomic weapons have proliferated. Well, it's pretty likely that the drone is going to proliferate very rapidly. It's not going to make our world safer. Now, there's another dimension to the drone which isn't mentioned very often, and I'll mention it now, is the Reaper drone in particular, but other drones have extraordinarily sophisticated surveillance technology. Already, that is being used here in the United States and in our neighbors, Mexico and Canada. Some police departments are experimenting with using drones. Think about the threat that this poses, to our civil liberties. This is 1984 stuff, and we need to waken up to it. Our campaign the last couple of years, which has involved the Syracuse Peace Council locally, but also groups across upstate New York and far beyond upstate New York. We have defendants from Massachusetts, from Illinois, from Iowa, even Hawaii, that are part of the Hancock 38. This is a national menace. I'm particularly concerned with it as an anti-militarism activist for many years because it's right here in our backyard at Hancock Air Base. Hancock Air Base is the national maintenance center for the Reaper drone. It also trains drone personnel and pilots the Reaper drone over Afghanistan. As I mentioned a moment ago, I was in Afghanistan this summer for a month. I visited the hospital where war wounded are taken care of. I saw some pretty awful wounds. This war has got to end. It's wrong, it's immoral. It's making us, in the eyes of the world, an even greater bully than they thought we were when we invaded Iraq back in 2003. I could go on and on. I want to turn the mic over to others. Is Ann?
Yes.
Colonel Ann Wright. Are you here?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Ann Wright. I'm a retired U.S. Army Reserve Colonel. I am a former U.S. diplomat who resigned in March of 2003 in opposition to the war in Iraq. I've served in Nicaragua, Grenada, Somalia, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Sierra Leone, Micronesia. I helped reopen the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan in December of 2001 and stayed for 5 months there. And then I was the Deputy U.S. Ambassador in Mongolia in 2003 when I resigned in opposition to the war in Iraq. I was arrested with 37 peaceful, nonviolent, wonderful citizens of the United States on April 22nd as we were fulfilling our responsibility as citizens to call attention to what we believe is a criminal acts being committed by our government. Acts using these killer drones, these assassin drones, these executioner drones that are endangering our national security, not enhancing it. As we all know, as the United States kills people in Afghanistan and in Iraq and in Somalia and in Yemen with these drones, that there will be retribution, there will be retaliation for this. And as the proliferation of drones increases throughout the world, where we know that the United States is the biggest maker of drones, the biggest seller of drones, Israel is the next largest maker and seller of drones, and China is now number 3, with 25 different types of drones that they displayed at their last weapons show. I taught the law of land warfare and the Geneva Conventions when I was in the military. I taught the use of disproportionate force, of collective punishment for people, is a violation of international law, of domestic law also, as we are signatories to the Geneva Conventions. Our young men and women that we train here at Hancock Air Force Base and at Creech Air Force Base in Nevada and now at other Air Force bases around the United States to operate these drones that are operating in other parts of the world, we're creating in them the type of people that may then be hired onto civilian law enforcement agencies as these agencies continue to militarize their groups, as they continue to increase the numbers of drones they have initially as surveillance drones for law enforcement work. And the next step is going to be the weaponization of these drones. We know that the United States has already executed 2 American citizens with the use of drones, that they were not brought before a court and the government presenting evidence on why these American citizens should be convicted of criminal acts and then punishment meted out. They were targeted and assassinated. They were executed by the United States government in an extrajudicial killing, and that's wrong. And as we are now on that slippery slope of disobeying our own Constitution, our government throwing our Constitution out the window, first in Yemen against American citizens, and where does it end next? So I think that's one of the reasons why all 38 of us decided that we would lay down peacefully and nonviolently in front of the gates that were already blocked by law enforcement on April 22nd. And I think most of us will continue to do this until the United States government rethinks its use of these killer drones. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Our next speaker is James Ricks, an Ithacan who walked from Ithaca to Syracuse, New York.
Good afternoon. My name is James Ricks. I feel pretty unqualified speaking here after the first two speakers, but I'll have to let you know I was motivated to walk from Ithaca to Syracuse after I learned about this drone weapon system, which I really wasn't familiar with except vaguely. It disturbed me. I am a bit of a history buff, and when I looked at some films of Nazi Germany's rise from the 30s through the 40s, they employed some type of similar system called the V2 rocket, which they sent from Germany into England. And at the time, we voiced such opposition to these weapons. They were indiscriminately killing civilians. They were inaccurate, and it seemed to me, as I heard our military and our government justifying this weaponry, it was a rubber stamp, or was almost the identical terminology that Adolf Hitler and his military used at that time. Also, last night I gave an opening statement here in court, and I asked my daughter to bring my grandson. I wanted to look at him before I went up to make this statement. It reminds me there are children that, well, he's 2. My grandson is 2. His name is Hassan. There are children that will not make it to the age he's made it to already. They have been collaterally damaged, which sounds like a loan went bad somewhere in a bank, but we're talking about bodies and hearts that'll never beat again. Things that can never be recalled once this happens. And one other point I would like to make is that we went to speak to people about the problems and the laws that these drones have been breaking. And the main concern, and this was in a congressman's office, his main concern seemed to be that drone technology was spreading, that eventually it could be turned back upon us, which seemed the epitome of an imperialistic attitude that somehow we feel we're better than other people, and that as long as this devastation doesn't hit us, it's okay. I can go to work, I can, get my check and pay my taxes, and everything is fine until it comes back to visit us. I found this very disturbing, amongst other things. Excuse me. It really bothers me. It bothers me deeply to think that we can just take our projected conversation about having rights, human rights, and protecting other people's countries, when this is not really what we're doing. We happen to find these enemies, it seems, in countries that oil flows beneath them. They seem to be the antagonist. There's atrocities happening all over the world, and the ones that we always seem to address are the countries that happen to have the fuel that most of these machines that are running this country are run by, and that's what we need. It's the duplicity, the insincerity, and quite frankly, I'm really upset. I'm 62 years old. I had never voted in this country. I never felt invested enough. I voted this last election, and so I paid attention to what the government did after I voted. I felt accountable. I felt responsible for putting these people into office, and because of that, and being very disappointed in the performance and the apathetic or casual attitude that we seem to take when death does not visit our doorway. And I feel very connected to these people that are being killed. I feel they are in imminent danger every minute. We don't seem to notice. It's a beautiful day here. We're all standing at the WIC court and we're speaking about it. We're gonna go home, just like the drone missile operators over at Hancock. They're gonna go home tonight, and there's no telling. They don't see the blood on their hands. They don't feel the pain that they're inflicting. They look at dots on a screen, and it's become more or less like a computer game, and that I find very disturbing.
Our next speaker is Kathleen Rump from Syracuse.
I'm not here because of trespassing. I'm not here because I disturbed the peace. I'm here because I disturbed the war. As a citizen of this community, and I am a citizen of this community, it is my right. It is my right and my responsibility to stand here, to stand in the courtroom, to stand wherever there is injustice. I am complicit as a citizen of this country, and I would be even more complicit if I didn't stand here. You know, in Japan they have a saying, the dead have no mouths to speak. We are trying to witness to the suffering of so many innocents. And I'd like to point out, you know, the tableau. This is real, folks. This is real suffering, real death. And we're just trying to educate other citizens. We're trying to call attention. We're trying to follow our consciences. And I feel honored to stand here, as I rarely do anymore with my friends, to speak to this atrocity. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, everyone. We'd like to open up for questions, but I'd like to add just maybe one or two more words, and that is, we are here to uphold the law and to uphold the highest laws of our land, the laws that lead us to peace. And the price that we pay for acting as a rogue nation who behaves as if we can kill anyone we want, wherever we want, whenever we want, with no accountability. So here we are today to say no, as citizens of this country. Our laws call us to take responsibility for those kind of crimes. And actually, the best of our laws outlaw that kind of behavior. So that's just one piece to add to the mix here. There are questions from people to the speakers and anyone else that wants to join in that's a defendant that'd like to speak. Question?
My name is John Burley. I've been a member of the Peace Council for quite a number of years. And I want to just make a couple of comments. The first thing that I want to say is we must recognize that we are running a war from here in Syracuse. We are killing people from here in Syracuse. We are as much involved with this war as any person that is on the battlefield. This is the battlefield has been moved to Syracuse. And we've got to face that. We're complicity and we are involved with this whole situation. And the thing I want to point out too is I'm an engineer. I've worked on autopilots for missiles in the past, and I know what's the future's going to hold here. We're going to be going to the situation where we're going to, as we mentioned before, put armaments on these drones, but the important thing is the decision to fire the drones or the missiles from the drones will be made on the drones automatically without any human intervention. And so we are moving beyond just killing people and watching it. We're letting machines now make the decisions to kill. We've got to stop this, and we've got to do it here and start to Syracuse. We've got to fight it. So let's hope this has some good effect, and I have nothing but the greatest respect for the people who are here on the violations of the various trials that they're going to be making.
Thank you, John, and all previous speakers. My name is Elizabeth Adams. I'm from Leverett, Massachusetts, which is near Amherst in western Massachusetts, and I'm one of the co-defendants that came here on April 22nd of this year to uphold the law. Every dollar spent on the drone program, whether it's in the United States or elsewhere, is a theft from a livable future for our children and grandchildren. And I have two. And I'm a full-time peace activist now, which requires me to not work full-time in other occupations because I do have children, and I deeply, deeply am concerned about their future, given the prognosis of this program, which engages in extrajudicial killing of innocent people. One of the prime memories that I have as we connect with people around the world, all of us are very aware of how we are all one people, one planet. We're connected to everything and every being that lives. And there was a story of that I heard over the internet about 9 children being killed by drones in Afghanistan, in northern Afghanistan, carrying wood, firewood to their families for cooking, for survival, for heating their homes in a very cold environment. How far have we gone when we torture people? We allow torture of people in hospitals, when we allow imprisonment and don't speak up as a nation because it's in Bahrain or Syria where there are naval bases and Fifth Fleet, and where we'll destroy a UNESCO fishing village, a pristine area off South Korea, an island called Jeju, when we will destroy natural habitat which will affect all of us in the future in order to have some sense of control over what? We don't need this drone program. We should be spending our money toward creating the green, clean, safe infrastructure that we all need in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, everyone. And I'm just told now that we will be starting at 5 inside the courthouse, and we're hoping that Ramsey comes very close to that time, but we don't know exactly when he will arrive. We hope that you're here to interview him. So perhaps around 4 o'clock he will be here. So we'd love to have people interview him when he arrives. It's our thinking to let the press know that this maybe will officially end, but that there's real value in having an open mic for people to speak and speak to each other, for us, we the people, to figure these things out together.